तो ये कहे बिना पूरा नहीं जा रहा, इसलिए मैंने उसका जिक्र किया। तो इस बात के साथ अपने इस आज के टॉपिक को शुरुआत करते हैं। आज का टॉपिक दो डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट्स को जोड़ने का है। एक क्रिमिनल ज्यूरिस्प्रूडेंस से रिलेटेड इशू है अरेस्ट, और अरेस्ट को बिना प्रोसिक्यूशन के नहीं समझा जा सकता। और दूसरा इशू जो है वो जीएसटी की, जिसको हम आत्मा कह सकते हैं, द वेरी सोल ऑफ जीएसटी, वो इशू उससे रिलेटेड है। इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट, इसी बात से इसका इंपॉर्टेंस को समझा जा सकता है कि जब जीएसटी को लाया गया और लाने से पहले, जब आप सबको मालूम है, जब बिल पार्लियामेंट में प्रेजेंट किया जाता है तो द कंसर्न्ड मिनिस्टर हु प्रेजेंट्स द बिल, he also presents along with that what according to him is the object for introducing the bill, and that's a extremely relevant document for ascertaining the purpose of introducing any law and to also understand what's the meaning behind the law. Even the Supreme Court, while interpreting several laws, has considered the statement of objects and reasons to be very relevant because it is an official document by the person who is moving the bill. So it shows what his intention was while he presents the bill. So if you look at the statement of objects and reasons of 122nd constitutional amendment, bill, because ultimately it translated into the form of 101st Constitutional Amendment Act, but it was 122nd bill. If you see that, you will find that one of the object that was provided along with the bill was the seamless flow of input tax credit. Today, I will definitely not be discussing the provisions of input tax credit per se, but what I will be discussing would be the input tax credit insofar as it is directly connected with the issues relating to arrest and prosecution, because that is something that has drawn a lot of attention of industry and the professionals, and it has been given a lot of importance by the taxman of this country. And that is what we have gathered together to find out as to what lies in store for all of us insofar as input tax credit along with the coercive machinery of arrest and prosecution is there under the GST law. So the importance, as I mentioned, of GST and input tax credit in GST can never be overemphasized. It is extremely important. In fact, it is the heart and soul of GST. And the very purpose, as I mentioned, for introducing the GST, one of the most integral reason for that was to grant seamless flow of credit. So if I may just refer the statement of objects and reasons of CGST bill, it says that the present tax system on goods and services is facing certain difficulties as under. There is cascading of taxes, as taxes levied by the central government are not available as set off against the taxes being levied by the state governments. Certain taxes levied by state governments are not allowed as set off for payment of other taxes being levied by them. तो आप देख रहे हैं कि जो प्रॉब्लम्स उन्होंने आइडेंटिफाई करी, उस 4 में से 2 प्रॉब्लम्स रिलेटेड ओनली टू इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट, एंड अल्टीमेटली इन पैरा 4 दे से जीएसटी का जब वो पर्पस बता रहे हैं उसके अंदर, इन व्यू ऑफ इट हैज बिकम नेसेसरी टू हैव अ सेंट्रल लेजिस्लेशन, namely the CGST Act or the bill. The proposed legislation confer power on so and so, will simplify and harmonize. It is expected to reduce cost. And then it says, due to seamless transfer of input tax credit from one stage to another in the chain of value addition, there is an inbuilt mechanism in the design of goods and services tax that would incentivize tax compliance by taxpayers. So basically, input tax credit has such an extreme importance. Now we all understand what input tax credit is, but in order to further our discussion, we need to put that into perspective. अगर आपको याद हो, सेनवैट क्रेडिट स्कीम जो इससे पहले होती थी सेंट्रल एक्साइज में और सर्विस टैक्स में, उसके अंदर the credit was allowed in respect of 3 different baskets. That it would be, Senvat credit was allowed in respect of input services and capital goods. And there were definitions of inputs, there were definitions of input service, there were definition of capital goods. And one were to fall within those baskets in order to avail the input tax credit, which we used to call as Senvat credit. Likewise, every state had their own VAT, where they used to provide input tax credit based upon certain definition that input tax credit will be allowed for goods which are purchased for resale, or goods which are purchased for use as raw material or consumables, or in the manufacture or production or processing of goods for sale. So there were certain specified definitions and criteria on the basis of which the credit was provided. और वो आपको सबको मालूम ही है कि वैट का जो क्रेडिट था वो सर्विस टैक्स के अगेंस्ट सेट ऑफ नहीं होता था, वो एक्साइज के अगेंस्ट नहीं होता था, वो सिर्फ वैट का वैट के अगेंस्ट, एक्साइज सर्विस टैक्स का एक्साइज सर्विस टैक्स। ब्रॉडली ये स्कीम थी। अल्टीमेटली जब इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट का प्रोविजन इन्होंने डाला जीएसटी लॉ में, तो उस समय पे जिन्होंने भी उस लॉ के बारे में सोचा होगा, उन्होंने उस लॉ को बहुत वाइड बनाने की बात सोची, और सेक्शन 16 में जो इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट की एक रूपरेखा रखी गई, एक कंसेप्ट को डेवलप किया गया, तो उन्होंने ये बोला कि इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट शैल बी अलाउड इन रेस्पेक्ट ऑफ एवरीथिंग that is used or intended to be used for the purpose of business. तो जो वर्ड उन्होंने रखे, इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट की entitlement is on any supply of goods or services which are used or intended to be used in the course or furtherance of his business. तो उसको बड़ा सिंपल क्राइटेरिया रखा गया कि आप बिजनेस से अगर इसका जो पर्पस है आपका, जो भी आप खरीद रहे हैं या जो सर्विसेज आप अवेल कर रहे हैं, इफ दे आर यूज्ड और आर इंटेंडेड टू बी यूज्ड इन द कोर्स ऑफ फर्दरेंस ऑफ बिजनेस, वहां भी वर्ड जो था यूज्ड इन द कोर्स ऑफ फर्दरेंस ऑफ बिजनेस, तो उन्होंने बोला कि उसका इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट आपको हम दे देंगे। अब ये इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट है क्या? इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट वो टैक्स है जो आप परचेजेस के ऊपर पे करते हैं टू द सप्लायर, मोस्टली टू द सप्लायर, एक्सेप्ट अगर आप रिवर्स चार्ज की बात करें या कस्टम्स के अंदर जो हम इंपोर्ट ड्यूटी तो हमेशा ही रिवर्स चार्ज होती है, इंपोर्टर हैज टू पे, तो एक्सेप्ट customs duty or few amounts of taxes which are to be paid in form of reverse charges, how the input tax credit system functions is that there is a supplier raises an invoice, charges tax, and we claim as recipient, we start claiming input tax credit of the tax charged on the invoice. Now you all are aware that जब शुरुआत में इस सिस्टम को गवर्नमेंट ने कंटेम्पलेट किया तो उन्होंने एक इनवॉइस बेस्ड मैचिंग के सिस्टम को कंटेम्पलेट किया। तो यहां पर से हमारा आज का टॉपिक जो है वो स्पेसिफिक्स में एक तरीके से शुरू होता है। और आप सबको मालूम है इन्होंने बहुत शुरुआत में ढोल नगाड़े बजाए कि हमने एक इनवॉइस मैचिंग का सिस्टम शुरू किया है, जिस सिस्टम के अंदर दे सेड दैट वी हैव 3 स्टेटमेंट्स टू बी फाइल्ड बाय एवरी टैक्स पेयर। एंड आप सबको मालूम है वो शुरुआत में उनका नाम रखा गया GSTR 1, 2, 3। और GSTR 1, 2, 3 के अंदर द कॉन्सेप्ट वाज दैट सप्लायर को अपनी सप्लाईज इनवॉइस वाइज रिकॉर्ड करनी थी, रिसिपिएंट को वो इनवॉइस वाइज अपनी परचेजेस को रिकॉर्ड करना था। उसका मैकेनिज्म कुछ भी हो, एक्सेप्ट करनी है या जो भी करना है, बट उसको रिकॉर्ड करना है। एंड अल्टीमेटली जो फाइनल इनपुट आउटपुट था वो सब GSTR 3 में जाना था। बट हमारा जो सिस्टम है, हमारे देश में किसी को भी कानून के आगे जाने की इजाजत नहीं है। सिर्फ एक क्लास ऐसी है जो कानून के किसी भी प्रोविजन को बाईपास कर सकती है। तो जिन लोगों को ये जिम्मेदारी सौंपी गई कि वो इस कानून के प्रावधानों का, द प्रोविजंस ऑफ लॉ वर टू बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड, I don't know what happened, but they were unable to implement them. And ultimately, we were in a stage that initially a makeshift kind of a return that was formulated, जो GSTR 3B के नाम से थी, which was not a return at all. It was simply a 5-columnar some statement sort of a thing, which only was on totals basis. वो हमने भरना शुरू कर दिया क्योंकि there was no GSTR 2, there was no GSTR 3. In fact, शुरुआत में GSTR 1 में भी कुछ समय लगा। So सप्लायर का टैक्स, बायर को उसका क्रेडिट मिलना है, और वो हमारे जो लॉ ने जो एक कंसेप्ट उसको क्रेडिट को देने का रखा, वो कंसेप्ट था by way of an invoice wise matching. मेरे को आज भी याद आता है कि 2017 में ये लॉ आने से पहले एक ये लॉ आया था, और आज हम उसके 4 साल पूरे होने के 2 दिन बाद बैठे हुए हैं. It is almost 4 years. It's almost the completion of 4 years of GST. I used to say that if there are 3 billion invoices which are being issued in India per month, मुझे आज का आंकड़ा नहीं पता कि आज क्या है, उस समय पे जो आंकड़ा सामने रखा गया था वो 300 करोड़ इनवॉइसेस, 3 बिलियन इनवॉइसेस वाज द डेटा. अगर 300 करोड़ इनवॉइसेस को कैप्चर करके मैच करना था तो इट्स अ हरक्यूलियन टास्क. इनवॉइस नंबर के अंदर कुछ हो सकता है, कुछ और चीजों में डिफरेंसेस हो सकते हैं, और इंडिया is a large country. India lives not only in English-speaking cities, but it also lives in regional language-speaking towns and villages. And definitely kuch registrations, sizable number, even non-English-speaking territories में भी हैं. So it's not very easy to match on an invoice-wise basis the data of sales and purchase between and for all the transactions. In fact, it was suggested why not have a matching which is on TIN number or GST number basis. But somehow, and please note that in the whole world, wherever GST has been implemented, to my knowledge and understanding, not even a single territory has any such matching. So now, a system which had input tax credit as its heart and soul, a GST concept as a concept which had input tax credit at the very center, at the very pivot. if you see the provisions of that very input tax credit, just refer to section 16 and look at the number of restrictions which were placed. Initially 4 in number, दिखने में 4 थी, ज्यादा थी वैसे, एंड अब बढ़ा दिया गया उसको, मैं उसके ऊपर भी आता। और जैसा कि मैंने कहा कि हमारे यहाँ कानून बहुत अच्छे बनते हैं, लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली जैसे गरुड़ पुराण को पढ़ते हुए मर्म समझ ही नहीं आता, क्योंकि उसके अंदर मर्म की बजाय हड्डियां और खून और पता नहीं क्या क्या की बात होने लगती है। इसी प्रकार जो सब्सटेंटिवली समथिंग विच वाज कंसेप्चुअलाइज्ड एज अ गुड एंड सिंपल टैक्स, look at the expression used by the highest policy maker of this country. The expression he used would not have been without, I can't believe that a person who is speaking would speak absolutely diametric to what he would have felt it to be. So the person who was speaking, I'm sure he was speaking consciously when he called it a good and simple tax. But the detailing of this law and the implementation of this law has not been that good, neither that simple. So there were 6 restrictions which were initially placed. The number 1, that he must be in possession of an invoice or a debit note issued by supplier. इसमें भी बहुत बड़ा इशू है। कई बार आप लोग टैक्स जो है वो डेबिट नोट और इनवॉइस से ना दे करके यू पेड बाय ड्यूटी पेइंग डॉक्यूमेंट। तो पहले अगर आप सर्विस टैक्स वगैरह के समय पे जाएंगे तो उस समय पे वो ड्यूटी पेइंग डॉक्यूमेंट जो था TR6 चालान या GAR7 चालान, वो भी स्पेसिफिकली मेंशन्ड थे एज अ डॉक्यूमेंट। व्हाई दे वर नॉट कैप्चर्ड, this in itself is a question mark, because many times what happens is that taxes are not paid on invoices. Let's take an example of customs duty. Customs duty is paid on, it's paid on a bill of entry but paid through a challan. But sometimes what happens is that there is an occasion that one has to pay more customs duty. There may be 1000 reasons for that. Initially the value may not be known properly, later on a person may realize. Initially what he would have thought would not have ultimately become true. कई बार ऐसा होता है कि आप बिल ऑफ एंट्री जब फाइल करते हैं, आप एग्जेम्पशन नोटिस कुछ ले लेते हैं और बाद में आपको पता चलता है you were not entitled to it. So what do? You simply write a letter to the department saying that I have paid lesser duty and I am filing a challan for the balance duty, and you pay it. You can pay it. There's no problem in paying that. But you may not actually a bill of entry जो इसमें एक डॉक्यूमेंट प्रोवाइडेड है। तो इस तरीके की सिचुएशंस को इसके अंदर टेक केयर ही नहीं किया गया। ये तो एक बात हो गई। अब देखिए दूसरी कंडीशन क्या थी, he must have received the goods or services. अब ये देखिए यहाँ से कहीं ना कहीं पॉलिसी मेकर जो है वो पॉलिसी को इम्प्लीमेंट ठीक से शायद कर पा रहा है या यही पॉलिसी है, we don't know, but there is definitely a lack in the policy. You are saying that tax will be payable immediately on issuance of invoice. It has nothing to do with supply of goods or supply of services. You are also saying that if payment is received in advance, tax is to be paid. Now, in that case, if that be the case, when the recipient's credit is to be seen, you are saying that you must have received the goods and services. So, as a supplier, a person is required to maintain records for issuance of invoice and also record for receipt of payment and accordingly account for the tax. So there is a system where the supplied based tax is at a point in time which is different when the recipient is to take the credit. So this what does it? It creates a discord for a business because his things are getting complicated. So he has a different time of supply or accrual under accounting. He may be governed by ICDS, which has their own story, and they are also at many points diverting from the generally accepted accounting principles. Then there is a third method when it comes to payment of GST, he has to implement that. And a fourth one when it comes to taking of credit. How many parallel books of accounts is a businessman supposed to maintain? And how many different types of systems do we want our accountants? Because we all know that chartered accountants are not bookkeepers. They are at the max system preparers. We will guide the system, but it is to be followed and it is to be worked upon by accountants. What kind of intelligence do we expect from accountants, and what do we ultimately gain out of it, except complication? And this is not the end of the matter. The next aspect I will tell you, which will require you fifth type of accounting. You all are aware that the payment must be made within a specified time. So अगर आपने supplier को payment नहीं करी, तो उसकी वजह से भी सरकार आपको, back debts are not allowed to be reduced for the purpose of GST computation by a supplier. But if a recipient does not pay within 180 days, he is expected to not only reverse the credit, but to pay interest. What kind of, provisions of a good and simple tax are these? But these are the provisions. The third one was that the tax charged in respect of the supply should have been actually paid. So now here comes the bigger catch. Here comes that catch which creates all the difficulty and which creates the situation for the next topic which we are going to discuss, namely the arrest. And the last one is he has furnished the return under section 39. So all right, the recipient is required to furnish a return, only then he can claim the credit. And then I have already discussed the requirement for making of payment within a specified period of time. Then we have to also remember that don't take credit on the depreciation portion, etc. And the last point, which is not the least, definitely which is not the least, that is section 39, return, with namely GSTR 3B, where you take the credit, you should remember to take the credit by September of the financial year last preceding to that. So कोई भी invoice जो पिछले साल के financial year की है, वो अगले साल के सितंबर की रिटर्न तक आ जानी चाहिए, otherwise credit ही चला गया. अब मैं इसको ज्यादा कोशिश करूंगा कि उनके ऊपर एम्फेसाइज करके डिस्कशन करें जो अरेस्ट से रिलेटेड है, बट एक चीज को जरूर ध्यान में लेके आऊंगा कि ये जो प्रोविजन है, इन सबको इकट्ठे डील करना इज एक्सट्रीमली डिफिकल्ट. इट्स अ नाइटमेरिश काइंड ऑफ एन एक्सपीरियंस फॉर द अकाउंटेंट. अगर आप क्रेडिट इमीडिएटली ले लेते हैं तो आपको पेमेंट का हिसाब रखना पड़ता है कि वो पेमेंट हुई कि नहीं हुई 180 दिन में. अगर आप उसकी बजाय ऐसा सिस्टम बना देते हैं कि मैं पेमेंट करके ले लूंगा, तो कई बार ऐसी गलती हो जाती है कि सितंबर के बाद टैक्स का क्रेडिट भूल जाते हैं लेना, सितंबर तक भूल जाते हैं लेना, या पेमेंट नहीं होती. तो अगर फर्स्ट इंस्टेंस पे सिस्टम में कोई चीज छोड़ दी तो वो छूट जाती है. तो मैं यहाँ पर एक एडवाइस जरूर देना चाहूंगा. आप सबने ध्यान दिया होगा उसके ऊपर, बट फिर भी कई बार छोटी छोटी चीजें फायदा कर देती हैं. मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूं पहले, उसके बाद वो उस बात को करूंगा. कई बार क्या होता है कि कोई प्रोडक्ट हम उसको एग्जेम्प्ट मान रहे हैं. मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूं कि जो प्लॉट्स सेल करते हैं, वो प्लॉट्स को जनरली बिल्डर्स treat it to be a sale of immovable property, and therefore they are considered to be not liable to tax. If they are not liable to tax, तो बिल्डर्स जो प्लॉट की डेवलपमेंट से रिलेटेड एक्सपेंडिचर करते हैं, वो उसका जीएसटी जो है, दे डू नॉट टेक द क्रेडिट ऑफ दैट. बट द जीएसटी डिपार्टमेंट इज लॉन्ग of the view that this activity also involves service. So namely cutting off plots and making sale of individual plots. Since it involves some sort of a activity of development. Therefore, it is not sale of immovable property simpliciter. Howsoever it may be a wrong interpretation, we don't know, because ultimately only time will tell. Because it is a case where the matter is before several courts. But अब आप देखिए कि मान लीजिए कि ये इशू आज 2017, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21, अब हम 21, 22 में चल रहे हैं, and the builder continuously decides not to take the credit, and ultimately notices are received by him 6 years, 7 years later for all the previous years. Because आप सबको ध्यान ही होगा कि जो एनुअल रिटर्न है, उस एनुअल रिटर्न के 3 साल तक तो और 2.5 साल तक तो the government can issue notices even without alleging suppression of facts. तो आपको याद होगा कि पहली जो रिटर्न्स फाइल हुई है वो 2020 में फरवरी में लास्ट डेट थी उसकी, जो 17-18 की रिटर्न्स थी, और उसके बाद मार्च से आपका लॉकडाउन की वजह से एक्सटेंशंस चल रही हैं, वो पीरियड आपका एक्सक्लूड होता जा रहा है सारी ही क्वाज़ी जुडिशियल प्रोसीडिंग्स के लिए। तो अगर मैं सिर्फ 2.5 साल का पीरियड भी लगा लूं 2020 के बाद, तो वो खत्म होना है 21-22 सितंबर के करीब, जुलाई अगस्त सितंबर में 2022 में 22 में। तो अभी 1.5 साल उसके लिए, और बीच में पता नहीं कितना कोविड का पीरियड एक्सक्लूड हो जाएगा। तो समझिए कि 17-18 के नोटिसेस अभी अगले 2 साल 2.5 साल तक भी इशू हो तो वो दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू बी टाइम बार्ड। तो जब वो जाकर के 7-8 साल 6 साल निकल चुके होंगे और जब उस सब की लायबिलिटी क्रिएट होगी, और ये प्रोविजन अपने को क्या बोलता है कि क्रेडिट कैन नॉट बी टेकन आफ्टर सितंबर रिटर्न, तो अज्यूम करिए कि कोर्ट अल्टीमेटली ऐसा होल्ड करती है, 1 मिनट के लिए अज्यूम करिए कि भाई आपने डेवलपमेंट के खर्चे जो किए वो 100 करोड़ के किए, प्लीज ऐड 10% टू दिस एंड पे द टैक्स। So 110 crore rupees, this is the tax amount, pay this. Now please remember that initially you had spent 100 crores and you have actually paid GST of 18% on the 100 crores. So the real exposure was only on 10 crores at 18%, which is 1.8 crores, compared to exposure of 18% on 110 crores, which would be 19 plus or around almost 20 crore rupees. This is only 2 crores. So what I am trying to submit and suggest is that even though the credit may not be allowed because your output is exempt, because there may be some other reason you think the credit is not allowed, many times we think that we will not be needing the credit. Just remember one thing. Take the credit in the return, in the books, and reverse it in the same month. What that will ensure is कि अगर कल को कोई मुसीबत खड़ी होती है तो आपके पास उसका रिकॉर्ड भी अवेलेबल है, आपको रिकॉर्ड भी पुल आउट नहीं करना, क्योंकि जब पहले स्टेज के ऊपर you have created the record, you have tabulated the credit, तो पहले स्टेज के ऊपर आ गया और उसी महीने रिटर्न हमने कर दिया, उसको लेके रिटर्न कर दिया, रिवर्स कर दिया, तो क्रेडिट की अकाउंटिंग भी हो गई और वो विद इन द पीरियड हमने लिमिटेशन के ले भी लिया। What it ensures is कि कल को कोई भी लिटिगेशन हो, टैक्स विल ओनली बी ऑन वैल्यू एडिशन, otherwise this law does not have a mechanism. तो उसकी एक अलग फाइट करनी पड़ेगी कि how do you get the credit, input tax credit in respect of the tax you already paid, merely because you missed the bus of taking the credit, because आप तो ये सोचे बैठे थे कि ये एक्टिविटी आगे टैक्सेबल होनी ही नहीं है। तो प्लीज इस बात को आप लोग जरूर ध्यान करें कि कोई भी क्रेडिट जो आपको लगता है कि एलिजिबल इनएलिजिबल है वो लेकर के रिवर्स कर दें, ताकि कल को कोई भी प्रॉब्लम आए तो वो आपका पूल आपके पास खड़ा है एंड यू कैन ऑलवेज बैंक अपॉन। अब मैंने आपको ऐसा बोला था कि इस लॉ में 6 कंडीशन मिनिमम है क्रेडिट लेने के लिए। पहला, आपके पास ड्यूटी पेइंग डॉक्यूमेंट होना चाहिए, ड्यूटी पेइंग मीन इनवॉइस होनी चाहिए। दूसरा, यू शुड हैव रिसीव्ड द गुड्स और सर्विसेज। तीसरा, the provisions of section 41 subject to that, the supplier should have paid the tax. Chautha, the person who is claiming the credit should have filed the return. Panchwa, he should have paid the amount, otherwise 180 days is to reverse. And last, that he must take the credit within the September month return of the succeeding year. अब हम यहां से अपनी जर्नी को थोड़ा सा आगे एग्जाम्पल से लेके चलते हैं कि कहां पर इशू आता है. मैं एक गोल्ड के बुलियन का एग्जाम्पल लेता हूं. गोल्ड बुलियंस कैसे ट्रांजैक्ट होते हैं? ए एक ज्वेलर है या बुलियन डीलर है, एंड ही गेट्स एन ऑर्डर फॉर परचेज ऑफ gold bullion from someone. He records the order, and in the evening he tabulates all the orders. I have received so much orders, and ultimately he finds that he has, उसके पास जो गोल्ड है वो उससे थोड़ा कम है, तो हो सकता है वो पड़ोस वाली दुकान से गोल्ड को खरीद लेगा और सप्लाई कर देगा शाम को. एक सिचुएशन हम ले रहे हैं इस तरीके से. ऐसा वो करता था. एक साल बाद उसके पास जीएसटी इंटेलिजेंस की टीम पहुंचती है और वो और कुछ नहीं कहती. वो कहती है आप 7.5 करोड़ रुपए का टैक्स भर दो, नहीं तो हम आपको अपने साथ आज ले जाने वाले हैं. और आप सब समझते हैं कि वो कोई बहुत अच्छी जगह तो नहीं ही ले जाएंगे. वो बेचारा अभी तो समझ भी नहीं पाया कि व्हाट हैज हैपेंड. So when he is cluttered by number of officers, he gets to know that the shop from which he was buying the gold every day and every day and every day, and the shop from or the supplier from whom that supplier was buying, जो supplier is supplying to this person who has been raided. Now his supplier's supplier, he comes to know, has not paid the tax. So the allegation is that your supplier, he has not paid the tax. Why? Because the tax credit which he has utilized on the basis of invoice issued by the second supplier, that second supplier has not paid the tax. So the team is now at your place saying you deposit or we will arrest. And the environment of that investigation is wholly hostile. To say the least, it is not comfortable. No time is given. And what the information is that the tax has not been paid. Now I ask myself a question. आप में से बहुत से लोग ये सोच रहे होंगे कि ऐसा तो फेक क्रेडिट भी हो सकता है. ये तो मैं आप सबसे सिर्फ एक ही प्रश्न करता हूं कि फेक क्रेडिट तो ये हो ही सकता है, बट ये तो जेन्युइन क्रेडिट भी हो सकता है. हो सकता है कि बाजार में कोई बैठे व्यक्ति के अंदर ही एक लालच आ जाए और वो जिन लोगों को रूटीन में सेल करता था उनको वो पीछे इनवॉइसेस ले लेके और आग कच्चे में माल खरीद के आगे उनको सेल करना शुरू कर दे. ऐसा भी हो सकता है. तो ऐसा कौन सा मैकेनिज्म है कि रिसिपिएंट ये इंश्योर कर सके कि उसके जो सेलर ने टैक्स जमा किया है उसको मालूम चल सके कि वो टैक्स जमा किया भी है कि नहीं किया. मैंने काफी इसके ऊपर जांच पड़ताल करने की कोशिश करी. बहुत से केसेस भी क्रिमिनल वाले करे, लेकिन आज तक आई एम एट लॉस टू अंडरस्टैंड कि जीएसटी में ऐसा कोई सिस्टम हो ये डिटरमिन करने का कि सप्लायर ने टैक्स जमा किया या नहीं किया। अब अगर इसका एक नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पूछें हम, तो वो ये उठता है कि सप्लायर ने टैक्स जमा किया या नहीं करा, इसका सिस्टम होना तो चलिए एक बात हो गई, वो है ही नहीं। लेकिन बायर का क्या कंट्रोल हो सकता है कि सप्लायर टैक्स जमा करते? क्या बायर उसको ये बात के लिए किसी प्रकार की अथॉरिटी एग्जर्ट कर सकता है? डज द बायर हैव एनी काइंड ऑफ एन अथॉरिटी ओवर द सेलर टू पुश हिम टू पे द टैक्स? And in that case, do businesses not fail? I'm handling cases where the supplier has not paid the tax, not because the buyer and the supplier were in a fraudulent transaction, but a case where the supplier actually became bankrupt and he was declared to be so by the NCLT. He is under IBC and he was told not to pay any taxes because he did not have the funds. So a seller, having collected tax from the buyer and in law whose debt has been remitted and who has been by virtue of clean slate theory allowed to function without making payment of government taxes. You all know that the government taxes are low in priority, and even though they may have been higher, he did not have the means to pay the sum. So having no means, the NCLT absolved him. In that case, can the buyer be made liable to reverse the input tax credit? These are live cases which I am talking about. Can the buyer be made to reverse the credit merely because the supplier, even in such circumstances, did not pay? Supplier is existing. He admitted his liability. He filed the return before the NCLT saying, this was my sale, this was my tax liability, but I could not pay it. You see my means, and on the basis of which NCLT creates and approves a scheme. There is a scheme which is approved, and that scheme do not contemplate the payment of tax or contemplates only a small proportion of the tax. Can the recipient of supply be denied the credit? This is a question to be asked. Now, as I mentioned to all of you, in the entire world, to my knowledge, there is not even a single country which has the system of denial of credit because of non-payment of tax by the supplier. In fact, this question has attracted the attention of courts on several occasions. And the European court said that unless the recipient is a party to the fraud or had the knowledge and means to know that the supplier is not going to make the payment of tax, which burden, of course, would be on the revenue to prove, the credit cannot be denied to the recipient. It's a case where the recipient is being fastened with an obligation, with an absolutely onerous condition, without there being any fault on the part of the supplier. And I had this opportunity to argue a matter in the Delhi High Court, where a similar issue in the regime of VAT came before the Honorable Court. The identical question as to whether if supplier do not pay the tax, can the recipient be denied the credit, drew the attention of the Honorable Court. And what the Honorable Court said in a batch which was decided by the name Onquest was that if the supplier has supplied and the recipient has received, and the recipient has the invoice for the said goods, credit cannot be denied to a bona fide recipient. what the court observed was that, look, a bona fide buyer, if you deny credit to him, you are equating him with a fraudster. So take an example where it is it's a case of a fake credit. Denying credit in such circumstances, that is the purpose. But if you deny credit even to bona fide cases where the government is allowing the supplier to collect the payment of tax and government has entrusted the liability to the supplier, then it is on the supplier and it is between him and the government. And in one of the cases before the Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court, the court went to the extent of saying that the buyer is nothing but entitled to credit because the seller is an agent of the government. He has collected the tax. So it's like you have so many judgments under income tax, where if the TDS has been deducted, thereafter you cannot go against the person whose TDS was deducted. That, look, the deductor has not deposited the amount. Though this problem is arising very regularly, but the provisions of law and as they have been interpreted by the courts is that having decided to collect tax in this way, thereafter you cannot again hold the person whose tax has been deducted to be liable and responsible. But what do you think? If tomorrow the government would have proved fraud in a particular case, would the courts come to the rescue of such like a person also? No. The answer is no. But in GST law, to say that if the tax is not paid, credit would altogether be denied, I don't think that would allow small businesses to do any trade, because they are simply not in a position to dictate terms. And if they are not in a position to dictate terms, agar koi aadmi unka tax na jama kare, what kind of a control they have? And let's now couple it with one more issue. जैसा मैंने आपके साथ शुरू में डिस्कशन किया GSTR 1, 2, 3 का, तो GSTR 1, 2, 3 तो आई नहीं, मैचिंग तो अभी भी चल रही है GSTR 1 के बेसिस पे। आपका GSTR 2A 2B कुछ बन जाता है, उसके बेसिस पे you are expected to match your things, and then for that they brought this provision in the rules also, which we call as 36 sub rule 4. तो एक और इशू क्या आ गया कि सप्लायर ने कोई गलती कर दी अपनी रिटर्न्स में शो करने में, वो मैचिंग में प्रॉब्लम आ गई। अब उस मैचिंग के बात करने के लिए उसको भी सेक्शन में डाल दिया। तो अब आप क्रेडिट लेते समय पहले जो 6 रेस्ट्रिक्शंस मैंने बताई, उसमें 7वीं रेस्ट्रिक्शन डाल दी कि जो सप्लायर है वो अपनी इनवॉइस अपने रिटर्न में शो करेगा और वो रिसिपिएंट से मैच करेगी, तब जाकर के आपको क्रेडिट मिलेगा। मेरा अपना मानना ये है कि the higher forums, the higher courts are likely to ultimately take a view। वैसे वो प्रोविजन 36(4) तो नोटिफाई हो ही गया, बहुत समय हो गया उसको नोटिफाई हुए तो, लेकिन सेक्शन 16 के अंदर जो अभी अमेंडमेंट आई है इस बार के फाइनेंस एक्ट से, वो अभी नोटिफाई नहीं हुई है। अज्यूम कर भी लें कि वो नोटिफाई हो जाएगी, तो मेरा अपना मानना ये कि जो हायर कोर्ट्स हैं, if you would be ultimately able to demonstrate from the facts कि आपने सप्लाई ली है और उसका इनवॉइस आप दिखाएंगे, पेमेंट का प्रूफ आप दिखाएंगे और चीजें आप दिखाएंगे जेन्युइनिटी प्रूव करते हुए, जिसको क्वेश्चन अगर डिपार्टमेंट नहीं करेगा तो आपको क्रेडिट उनके ऊपर, इवन दो देयर इज द प्रोविजन रिलेटिंग टू मैचिंग, वो मिल जाएगा। तो वो क्रेडिट आपको मिल जाएगा, ऐसा मेरे को लगता है, ये समय बताएगा। लेकिन जो ज्यादा बड़ा इशू है वो ये है कि अगर हम गवर्नमेंट के पर्सपेक्टिव से देखें तो जो एक आर्गुमेंट पॉलिटिकल सर्कल्स में या ब्यूरोक्रेटिक सर्कल्स में रहता है, जो ऑफिशियल लेवल के ऊपर जो एक आर्ग्यूमेंट आता है, हम लोग एक मुझे लगता है कि जो भी हमारा डिस्कशन डिस्कोर्स है वो थोड़ा ऊपर ऊपर से रहता है, एक परसेप्शन के बेसिस पे रहता है। और वो परसेप्शन ये है कि अगर सरकार को टैक्स नहीं मिला तो रिसिपिएंट को क्रेडिट कैसे मिलेगा। लेकिन इसके पीछे ये हम लोग शायद भूल जाते हैं ये देखना कि रिसिपिएंट को क्रेडिट कैसे मिलेगा, ये प्रश्न बिल्कुल ही गलत है, क्योंकि रिसिपिएंट तो टैक्स दे चुका है तभी तो उसको क्रेडिट मिलने का क्वेश्चन है, अदरवाइज तो उसको क्रेडिट मिलना ही नहीं है। इफ ही डजंट पे ही हैज टू रिवर्स विद इन 180 डेज। सो जब वो टैक्स सरकार के कहने पर सेलर को दे चुका है तो क्वेश्चन ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि अगर सरकार को टैक्स नहीं मिला तो रिसिपिएंट को क्रेडिट कैसे मिलेगा। The question should be that if the supplier has, on the asking of the government, on the authorization by the government, while he has been registered, and thereby he is allowed to collect tax on his invoice, and which tax forms the integral part of GST, which I called as the heart and soul of GST, namely by virtue of input tax credit, and which the recipient has paid to the supplier, then should credit, why should credit at all be denied to the recipient? This should have been the question. But general discourse में क्या होता है, आप किसी भी मैंने कई बारी रिप्रेजेंटेशंस का हिस्सा बना या कुछ चर्चाओं का हिस्सा बना, तो उसमें जो प्रश्न रेज किया जाता है वो ही बहुत उथले स्तर पे ये रेज होता है कि जी आप रिसिपिएंट को क्रेडिट क्यों डिनाई करते हैं। तो वो कहते हैं कि जब टैक्स ही सरकार को नहीं मिला तो रिसिपिएंट को क्रेडिट कैसे मिल सकता है। तो ये प्रश्न चिन्ह तो फिर उन्हें अपनी व्यवस्था पर लगाना चाहिए। व्हाट इज द सिस्टम दे हैव सेट इन प्लेस दैट देयर वुड बी अ मैकेनिज्म फॉर कलेक्शन बाय द सप्लायर एंड डिपॉजिट बाय हिम एंड कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंग क्रेडिट बाय द रिसिपिएंट। अगर आपको आपकी व्यवस्था ही पक्की नहीं है तो आप व्यवस्था को बदलिए, आपको ढूंढना होगा सोल्यूशन उसका। बट इट इज नो सोल्यूशन दैट इन ऑर्डर टू मेक public money remain equivalent to the money that comes to the coffers, you penalize the person who has not done anything wrong. He has merely followed your system. So then the fault is with your system, not with him. That is where arbitrariness comes. That is where inequality comes. That is where treating people as unequals come. Now we are finding difficulties. There are many trades जहां पर आपके सप्लायर्स जो है, आप देखिए ना इंटीरियर में भी तो बहुत से काम होते हैं। जब इंटीरियर्स में आप काम कराने जाते हैं, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स एग्जीक्यूट करने जाते हैं या कोई चीज, माइनिंग कंपनीज को ले लीजिए, वो जब इंटीरियर्स में कोई कार्य करेंगी, माइनिंग कोई शहर में दिल्ली में तो होनी नहीं है, दे विल बी अप्लाइंग सब कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स इन माइनिंग एरियाज एंड सब कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स विल बी चार्जिंग रीजनेबल सम ऑफ मनी, प्रोवाइडिंग लेबर वर्थ 15 lakh rupees per month. They will be charging 2 lakh rupees of tax from you. Now, in this context, the supplier of the mining labor would be a person who can manage the labor in that interior location. He has no idea of what GST is. He does not know how it is to be paid, and he does not bother. No one can reach to him. Now, when he charges the tax, and you pay to him and he does not deposit, the government cannot even reach to his home. And they will simply say, you don't take the credit, you are not eligible, he has not paid. He has not even shown it in his supply invoices or in his GSTR1. What to do? Then why don't you have a system which has some sort of a mechanism where the money is paid and is reflected that yes, this is the amount of tax paid to the government. You have some prepaid kind of a system. You have some system where the recipient can make payment of taxes directly wherever circumstances are so grave. But you can't leave the recipient of these services to bet. It's like betting. It's like gambling. कि जी मैं उसको टैक्स दे तो रहा हूँ, पता नहीं वो जमा होगा कि नहीं होगा. And if I don't pay him, he will not work for me. If I pay him, I will not be getting the credit. It's like a person between devil and deep sea. What do you do? So this is an aspect which the courts are definitely, they are the issue is already before the courts, and lots of debate, I'm sure, is going to happen around this matter. And payment of taxes, therefore, in order that the commerce flourishes, and I'm talking about businesses who are saying, look, now we have stopped buying from the market, we only buy from the bank. They say, bullion, we are only buying from the bank. Now I ask them, if tomorrow banks have also failed, if they don't pay, where will you go? So ultimately, an argument cannot be and should not be from a policy perspective. Ultimately, what is happening is that because of these provisions, the businesses are finding it difficult. It may happen any day that they are saddled with huge liabilities because maybe some big supplier is going bust. He has defaulted on the payments. Maybe because the supplier's supplier do not pay the tax, because someone in the chain may not be paying his taxes validly. Where does the liability end? In fact, even in respect of share capital money, you go only to 2 stages. Yahan to there is no limitation. A to B to C to D to E. If A doesn't pay, up till E, everyone is a defaulter. And no one will go against A. A cannot be found. B, C, D, E, all would be caught. So, but then the next question which is to be asked. So the first aspect which I would like to rather say that the first conclusion which we may draw is that in case of genuine transactions, if there is a case of requiring reversal on account of non-payment by the supplier, there you have no option but to challenge the provision. If it is because of non-allowability of ITC, because he has not shown it in his return, many times ऐसा हो रहा है, बड़ी कंपनीज उसको अनरजिस्टर्ड बायर में गलती से दिखा देती हैं, उसके बाद ठीक नहीं करती हैं. ऐसा ई कॉमर्स ट्रांजैक्शन में खूब हो रहा है. या बहुत बड़ी बड़ी कंपनीज हैं, उनके यहाँ सिस्टम्स ही इस तरीके के हैं कि वो छोटे लोगों को एंटरटेन नहीं करते. छोटे के लिए 10 लाख 20 लाख 25 लाख का क्रेडिट है, ही इज नॉट एबल टू गेट इट करेक्टेड फ्रॉम द सप्लायर. इस तरीके के केसेस है, रिटर्न करेक्ट नहीं हो रही, एवरीथिंग एल्स इज फाइन, the supplier's return is not corrected. In all these cases, if you take appropriate legal remedies, I'm quite sure that one will be getting the credit finally. Yes, it's a difficult situation. And when I say it's difficult, it's important to make the policy makers hear that this is a problem which needs to be solved. It cannot be left at a point कि ठीक है, अगर सरकार को टैक्स नहीं मिला तो क्रेडिट नहीं देंगे आपको. ये क्या बात हुई? ये तो वही बात हो गई कि शहर में जितनी भी डकैती पड़ेगी, जिसके घर के अंदर डकैती पड़ेगी, तो उसके बराबर वाले से पैसा वसूल लिया जाएगा. It's something like that. You are not catching the wrongdoer. You are saying that in equity, I want money back in the government's coffers. So for that purpose, हम कहीं से भी ले लेंगे. My example may not be absolutely apt, but what I mean to say is there is no rational relationship between not allowing the credit to the recipient and non-payment of tax by the supplier. Though they look to be connected, but at the same time, both of them are different independent parties. And input tax credit is not arising from contract, it's arising from law, it's arising from legal provisions, and it's sort of an integral part of GST. So this is something which definitely we all need to introspect and discuss and find out more solutions as to how some kind of a business solution can be found around it. But this is otherwise becoming a difficult proposition for genuine businesses to navigate. देखिए, बहुत बड़ी बड़ी कंपनीज हैं, इधर कुछ हुआ उधर कुछ हुआ, ठीक है, निकलते रहे, यहाँ कुछ है. बट जो लोग एक लिमिटेड कैपिटल के ऊपर जो सस्टेन करते हैं, जो इंडिया का एक मास बिजनेस सिस्टम है, वहां पर तो एक छोटी सी कोई ऑब्लिगेशन भी, द होल बिजनेस कैन बी रूइंड फ्रॉम दैट. और ऐसा हो रहा है. इसमें मतलब इट्स नॉट दैट such like situations are not coming. I'm talking even of traders. Traders are finding it difficult to navigate and negotiate in these circumstances. अब इसको थोड़ा नेक्स्ट स्टेप पे लेकर के चलते हैं, जो हमारा आज का सेकंड टॉपिक भी था, अरेस्ट वगैरह से। तो कुछ लोग गुड्स और सर्विसेज का बिजनेस करते हैं, और एक तरह का बिजनेस और भी होता ही है, वो हम सब जानते हैं, वो है इनवॉइसेस का बिजनेस। तो उसमें गुड्स और सर्विसेज ट्रांजैक्ट नहीं किए जाते, उसमें इनवॉइसेस की ट्रांजैक्शन होती है, और उसका मैकेनिज्म बड़ा डिफरेंट है। इनवॉइसेस की पेमेंट कैसे होती है, और उसके बाद इनवॉइसेस को सेटलमेंट की पेमेंट कैसे होती है। और जब जीएसटी किसी ने कहा लम्हों ने खता की सदियों सजा पाई, तो उसके बाद जब जीएसटी ऑल ओवर इंडिया अपॉर्चुनिटी देता था ट्रेड करने की, बिकॉज यू हैव नो बॉर्डर्स, क्रेडिट इज अलाउड सीमलेसली, तो लोगों को लगा कि ये इनवॉइस का बिजनेस भी ऑल ओवर इंडिया किया जा सकता है। और कुछ फैंसी फिगर्स, 500 करोड़ रुपए के क्रेडिट इनवॉइसेस बना बना के बांट दिए गए। किसी ने ये ध्यान नहीं दिया कि जीएसटी जो है ये सारा कुछ तो कंप्यूटर के ऊपर लेकर के आ गया, इसलिए डेटा का एनालिसिस तो बहुत आसान हो गया। डेटा के अंदर इंटेलिजेंट आप आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस डाल देंगे, वो आपको डिफरेंट डिफरेंट तरह की रिपोर्ट्स ऑटो पॉपुलेट करके देता जाएगा कि आपने टैक्स जमा किया 1 रुपया, क्रेडिट पास ऑन किया 1000 रुपया, ऐसी रेशियोज वगैरह आप डालेंगे तो सारी इंफॉर्मेशन आपको पूरी चेन भी बना के दे देगा। और धीरे धीरे करके जो एक्सपीरियंस गैदर होता गया, तो आपने उसको और इम्प्रूव करते गए आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के सिस्टम को। तो आज का अगर हम डिस्कशन देखें तो इट हैज टू बी डिवाइडेड इनटू 2 पार्ट्स। Number 1 is the part which relates to the businesses of goods and services. Genuineness where is not under doubt. And the second relates to the business of supplying invoices, where there is not even a semblance of supply of goods or services. It's a pure and simple evasion which must be looked down upon, which is not just an economic offense. It's like sucking blood, which is absolutely essential for the, it's like sucking lifeblood from our economy. So definitely we need to distinguish between these two. तो जैसे जैसे हम लोग 2019 के अंत की तरफ आते गए, और जैसे जैसे जीएसटी ने थोड़ा सेटल होना शुरू किया और इंफॉर्मेशन का फ्लो बढ़ा, तो बहुत से ऐसे केसेस सामने आने लगे जहां पर देयर वर सीमिंगली ओनली इनवॉइसेस और गुड्स का नामो निशान नहीं था। सप्लायर के जब पते पे जाएंगे तो वहां कुछ मिलता नहीं था। ज्यादातर रिक्शे वाले, ऑटो वालों के और जिन लोगों का उस बिजनेस से कोई सरोकार नहीं था, उन सब के नामों पर कंपनीज रजिस्टर्ड होती थी। कई बार किसी के पैन नंबर पे कर दिया रजिस्ट्रेशन, उसको पता भी नहीं है कि मेरे पैन नंबर पे हो गया संबे। तो इस तरीके के केसेस जब वो बिल्टअप हुए, तो फिर ये इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट जो जीएसटी का इंटीग्रल पार्ट था, और जिसे लोगों ने अपने आप में एक कमोडिटी बना के व्यवसाय शुरू कर दिया, उससे एक नया आई वुड से ईविल जनरेट हुआ। और वो ईविल था कि जीएसटी जैसे इकोनॉमिक एंड फिस्कल लॉ के अंदर एक्सेसिव क्रिमिनल जस्टिस इंटरफेरेंस होना, और उसने बहुत बड़ा मौका दे दिया कि जो टैक्स के एनफोर्सर्स थे वो उस टैक्स को सिविल लायबिलिटी की तरह ना इन्फोर्स करके क्रिमिनल लायबिलिटी की तरह इन्फोर्स करने लगे। और ये बड़ा अट्रैक्टिव है, क्योंकि क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम इन्वेस्टिगेटर्स को रूथलेस पावर्स प्रोवाइड करता है। हमारे यहाँ पे जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का आर्टिकल है, आर्टिकल 21, वो ये बोलता है कि नोबडी शैल बी डिप्राइव्ड ऑफ हिज लिबर्टी एक्सेप्ट अकॉर्डिंग टू द प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय लॉ। ये अपने आप में लाइन जो है वो बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है। और इसमें वर्ड देखिए क्या यूज होता है, पर्सनल लिबर्टी एक्सेप्ट इन अकॉर्डेंस विद प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय लॉ। तो दो चीजें आ गई कि लॉ में प्रोवाइडेड होना चाहिए कि आपकी लिबर्टी को लिया जा सकता है, और उसके अंदर उसका प्रोसीजर भी होना चाहिए। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फ्रेमर्स ने जब बनाया था तो ये जरूर सोचा होगा कि इतनी बात लिखने के बाद जो हाईएस्ट लेवल के ऊपर गाइडेंस हमने दे दी कि अगर किसी को आप डिप्राइव करो उसकी पर्सनल लिबर्टी से, तो एक प्रोसीजर जरूर बनाना, कानूनन एक कानूनी प्रक्रिया होनी चाहिए और वो फॉलो होनी चाहिए। तो दो चीजें हो गई ना, देयर हैज टू बी अ प्रोसीजर व्हिच इज टू बी एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय लॉ एंड द deprivation हैज टू बी ओनली इन अकॉर्डेंस विद दैट प्रोसीजर। तो दो चीजें हो गई। बट मैंने काफी लर्नेड स्पीकर्स को समय समय पर सुना जो स्टॉलवर्ड्स हैं अपने फील्ड के। तो एक सज्जन को मेरे को ऐसा याद आता है कहते हुए, हो सकता है शब्द में एग्जैक्टली ना बोल रहा हूं, बट ही सेड दैट देयर इज नो क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम लेफ्ट इन इंडिया, इट इज एंटायरली कोलैप्स्ड। मैं हो सकता है शब्दों में कुछ हेरफेर कर रहा हूं, पर मेरी भावना जो है कहने की वो मैं आपको समझा देता हूं कि जब इतना इंपॉर्टेंट आर्टिकल बनाया गया तो एक ये रखा गया कि आप किसी को पकड़ें, किसी को जेल के अंदर डालें, किसी को जुडिशियल कस्टडी में रखें, तो कृपया एक प्रोसीजर हो और वो फॉलो किया जाए। अगर आप जीएसटी के अंदर देखेंगे तो यू विल फाइंड दैट पहले बात तो यहाँ पे प्रोसीजर की बहुत ज्यादा कमी है, क्योंकि प्रोसीजर होना भी चाहिए और वो फेयर भी होना चाहिए। अगर आप सिर्फ जीएसटी लॉ देखें तो अरेस्ट का जो प्रोविजन है दैट इज अंडर सेक्शन 69, और उसके अंदर सिर्फ एक ही रिक्वायरमेंट है अरेस्ट करने से पहले, और वो है दैट द कमिश्नर हैज रीजंस टू बिलीव दैट अ पर्सन हैज कमिटेड एन ऑफेंस स्पेसिफाइड इन 132 ABCD 132(1) ABCD। अगर उन्होंने ऐसा किया है एंड विच इज पनिशेबल अंडर क्लॉज सो एंड सो, वो 5 करोड़ से ऊपर पे अरेस्ट हो सकती है, वैसे 2 पे हो सकती है, लेकिन 2 से 5 के बीच के जो ऑफेंसेस हैं वो 4, दे आर बेलेबल। तो वो प्रैक्टिकली देयर इज नो अरेस्ट इन दैट, बिकॉज वो आप अरेस्ट करते ही आपको ही बेल देनी पड़ेगी जो अरेस्ट कर रहा है उसी। सो दैट्स नॉट यूजफुल practically for all practical purposes. The real power is where it is a non-bailable offense, where you need to go to the judicial magistrate to get the bail. So in वो 5 करोड़ से ऊपर के केसेस जो ABCD सिर्फ 4 ही हैं, और उसमें एक ऑफेंस ये है कि ऐसी इनवॉइसेस रेज करना जिसके अगेंस्ट सप्लाई नहीं हो रही है, जिसको हम इनवॉइसेस का व्यापार कहते हैं, और ऐसी इनवॉइसेस के बेस पे क्रेडिट लेना, ये दोनों ही ऑफेंस उसके उसमें आते हैं। अब वो कौन सी चेन तक उसको देखना है वैसा कोई बात उसमें नहीं लिखी। तो अब जब हम बात करते हैं सेक्शन 69 की, विच इज द प्रोविजन रिलेटिंग टू अरेस्ट, तो उसके अंदर सिर्फ एक ही बात लिखी है कि द कमिश्नर हैज रीजंस टू बिलीव। और सेकंड जो 69(2) है वो बोलता है वेयर अ पर्सन इज अरेस्टेड अंडर सबसेक्शन 1 फॉर एन ऑफेंस specified under 132(5), the officer authorized to arrest the person shall inform such person of the grounds of arrest and produce him before a magistrate within 24 hours. अब आप इसके साथ एक चीज पे और ध्यान दीजिएगा कि क्यों ये प्रोविजन बहुत खतरनाक हो जाता है, क्योंकि हम आज 2 मुद्दों पर बात कर रहे हैं। एक मैंने आपको बोला था कि वो मुद्दे जो जेन्युइन असेसीज के हैं, और वो मुद्दे जो इनवॉइस प्रिपेयर्स एंड दोज हु नो दैट ही हैज परचेज्ड गुड्स फ्रॉम इनवॉइस प्रिपेयर उनके हैं। सेकंड वालों के साथ हमारी कोई सिंपैथी नहीं है, एटलीस्ट मेरी बिल्कुल नहीं। लेकिन ये बात तय होने में कि a person belongs to class number 1 or class number 2, there is a ultimate process of determination, जहां पर उसको भी अपना मौका रखा जाएगा कि उसने क्या किया। उसके बिना nobody's guilt can be decided without hearing him. There is to be a procedure established by law. Civil liability के लिए शो कॉज नोटिस दिया जाएगा, उसका जवाब देख के डिसीजन which we call as process of adjudication. Criminal liability के लिए there will be a complaint charge sheet, ultimately evidences will be led and magistrate will be deciding that whether he is guilty of an offense or not. But अभी हम बात कर रहे हैं a stage prior thereto, which is confinement. We are talking of arrest. We are talking of detention. We are talking of curtailing the liberty of a person. And in that sense, at that stage, the procedure has not only to be there, it has to be a fair procedure and it must be followed. तो अगर आप GST लॉ को देखें तो मैंने आपको दो चीजें बताई. There are only two things. Number one, there has to be reason to believe by the commissioner, and second, those reasons, the grounds of arrest have to be informed to the assessor. Now, please note, I am yet to come across a case where any ground whatsoever is given while arresting, except writing that you are guilty of an offense falling under 132(1) A, B, C, or D. It doesn't say anything. Can this ever be considered to be a ground? And the courts have repeatedly said in various decisions, Gujarat High Court has said, Allahabad High Court has said, several high courts have said, Telangana has said that you need to give reasons. Where are the reasons? They're not given. No procedure followed. And ultimately, when you appear before the courts, they will say 1, 2, 3, 4. But that they will say. What is the requirement of the law is that you must state the reasons in the arrest memo. They are absent. So Article 21 is, I don't know, it definitely is a salutary principle of, it's one of the fundamental right guaranteed to every citizen, but it's very difficult to, it's when we find in practice, it's not followed. The authorities enjoy the power, but how are they accountable when it comes to fulfilling the counter obligations cast upon them? And what? That is a procedure. And now please see the first requirement. Commissioner has reason to believe. You all know reason to believe are justiciable. The reasons can be challenged. Saying this can never be a reason. You all know that. Now please see that how GST law operates. मैं आपको थोड़ा क्रिमिनल लॉ पे ऊपर ले जाता हूं. जब कोई क्रिमिनल ऑफेंस की शुरुआत होगी जो IPC का होगा, तो what will happen? A complaint will have to be filed, which we call as the first information report. An FIR will be filed with someone. It's not even a complaint, it's an information. When information will be filed, cognizable, non-cognizable offenses, etc., they will all be there. Ultimately, police will decipher on the basis of that information what investigation, etc., is required. And if in that process some offenses are made out prima facie on the basis of information or on the basis of further investigation, the police will then decide whom to arrest. And that itself is subject to so many problems, because arrest, even though there is a power to arrest, the courts have again and again said the exercise of power in itself may in various cases may not be valid. So even though you had the power to arrest, exercise of that power by arresting a person may not be valid in given circumstances, because having power is one thing and exercising that in a valid manner is another. So that discretion which a police officer exercises, that has been a subject matter of huge controversy. But please see, वहां पर police officer arrest करने से पहले at least एक basic document है, which is a first information report. Now, उसके ऊपर जब बहुत discussion हुआ कि पुलिस की discretion ऐसी है तो हमारे सीआरपीसी के अंदर एक प्रोविजन लाया गया 41 कैपिटल ए, जो इस बात के ऊपर लेकर के जाता है कि अगर कोई ऑफेंस 7 साल से कम सजा वाला है और उस केस में अ पर्सन इज कोऑपरेटिंग, तो उस केस में उसको ऑर्डिनरीली अरेस्ट ही ना किया जाए, उसको ऑर्डिनरीली अरेस्ट ही ना किया जाए, और अगर अरेस्ट करना भी पड़ता है तो वो 4-5 स्पेसिफिक ग्राउंड्स दे दिए कि आपको वो रिकॉर्ड करने पड़ेंगे कि इनमें से कोई ग्राउंड एग्जिस्ट करता है। अगर मैंने इसको छोड़ा तो ये दोबारा कमिट कर सकता है इस ऑफेंस को, अगर मैंने इसको छोड़ा तो ये एविडेंस के साथ टेम्पर कर सकता है, फलाना ढिमकाना। Those 4 items are there which are to be recorded specifically by a police officer in offenses less than 7 years. जीएसटी में सारे 7 years से कम है। Therefore, वो सीआरपीसी का जो प्रोविजन है वो उस डिस्क्रिप्शन को कर्टेल करने के लिए कि केवल कुछ एक्सट्रीम सर्कमस्टेंसेस में आप लोगों को अरेस्ट, क्योंकि आप सबको मालूम है जब आप केस चला के आप प्रोसिक्यूशन करके फाइनली आप ये डिसाइड करवा दो ना कि उस आदमी ने वास्तव में गलत किया था, उसके बाद उसे जेल में डाल देना। बट अरेस्ट की पावर इतनी डेकोरेटेड क्यों है? क्योंकि उसके साथ बड़ी रॉ पावर आती है, उसके साथ बहुत क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम को जब हम यूज करते हैं, when authorities resort to it, it is very easy to extract money. It's easy to coerce a person to make immediate payment because he is thinking ki I am a businessman, let me just get rid of all these issues. So even though legally he may not finally be found to be in a position which is warranting addition of liability, but ultimately he is saying ki all right, I will see whatever will happen later, but at this moment let me make the payment and finish it off. So what is happening is that the GST law need to build in more procedural provisions and safeguards so that only in extreme circumstances people are arrested. अब आप देखिए, मैं आपको जो कंपैरिजन दे रहा था पुलिस सिस्टम के साथ, यहाँ जीएसटी में क्या होता है कि कोई केस बुक हुआ, किसी के अगेंस्ट बुक हुआ, वो सब इंटरनल है, दैट इज बिकॉज द इन्वेस्टिगेटर एंड दोज हु आर मेकिंग द केस दे आर द सेम, वो तो डिपार्टमेंट ही है। तो व्हेन इन्वेस्टिगेशन इज गोइंग ऑन, अ पर्सन इज कॉल्ड फॉर by way of summons, he is called to depose and he is called to make a statement. When he makes a statement, at that moment he is within the bounds of the department, and many times we have seen that the environment of while giving the statements is not that conducive. So when it is not that conducive, there are allegations of pressurizing the person who is deposing and making the statement. There are many times there are allegations, there are claims that look, I was not allowed to give my statement freely and fairly. In these circumstances, he is made to give a statement, and that statement itself immediately forms the basis of arresting him then and there. So there is no system of filing FIR, unlike in cases of criminal justice system, where a person can at least know that an FIR has been filed, at that he may be implicated in it, and therefore he may have a chance to find out some legal remedy for himself. This is a case where some case is booked, no one knows what is the case. Someone is called for making a statement. Again, the summons do not disclose anything except saying that we want their investigation and we investigating and we want statements. Person goes, he's made to depose. While he is deposing, he's practically in confinement of the department. The summon itself will say, you will not leave the premises unless you are allowed to do it, you are permitted to do it. तो आप उसी के उनके confines में anyways हैं. And वही statement immediately forms the basis for reason to believe that yes, this person is guilty of an offense under 132, 1A, B, C, or D. So in this case, it's not an issue. I'm not commenting on merits of any individual case, but what I'm only thinking is that is this not amenable to a lot of misuse? Is it not that even genuine persons, genuine businesses may be arrested, maybe because they may not even know that the supplier was a fraudulent supplier, or they may not even know that the supplier has not paid the tax, or they may not know that they have not benefited from it because they came to know only later that he has not paid the tax. In these circumstances, is it not entitled, is a business community of this country not entitled to safeguard their interests by having adequate safeguards, by putting it, and can the prosecution not wait to arrest at least until his liability is fastened under the GST law? What is happening is, even show cause notices are not being issued. There is no allegation against him. And a person is simply put, no allegations means for fastening civil liability, there is no document. Suddenly one day happens, person is called, he is arrested, and maybe his life ultimately gets ruined. So by this discussion, what I'm only trying to put forth is that we need to have more robust system in place, and merely saying that there is a control by giving power only to commissioner to approve a arrest by having a reason to believe, we have all seen that that is far from being adequate. It may be a safeguard, yes, there's no doubt about it, but it is far from being a method which can really garner public confidence. Public confidence will be there only if you have robust courts to decide on the guilt, not to prejudge everything at the stage of making an arrest. Wild allegations, bare allegations, you bought so much material, within 6 months you bought 50 crore worth rupees material, you have a factory which is small, last year turnover was only 20 crores, we found that 3 documents were missing, we found that 3 trucks were caught, something like that, or that the supplier has not paid the tax, he is missing, since he is missing, therefore you are guilty. There have been cases where the entire case is that the supplier is missing. My premises is there. It is when it is searched, it is found that it's a proper working business place, and people have been arrested. I'm not saying that they may not be guilty. They may be. Ultimately, they may be found to be guilty. But ultimately, they may also be found not to be guilty. In such circumstances, if you keep a businessman behind bars, these things again, we will definitely need to introspect, and some debate, some discussion, some representations, some sort of a public discourse is required, that if this should not be used as a tool which can lead to closure of businesses or demoralizing the businesses, or that they are unable to have any confidence in dealings with the other businesses. We need to create an environment of trust, and such an environment where, of course, chaff is removed, but the wheat is not removed as by considering it to be a chaff. So that is something which definitely is required. This is a grand, and please also notice that GST is not just goods, it also has services. Many times in cases of services, it becomes very hard to prove that the services have been rendered. Consider internet-based services. Consider such like services which are wholly intangible. So in those cases, sometimes it becomes very hard. But at the same time, I also acknowledge that there has been a lot of cases of input tax credit evasion and frauds. And we are all professionals sitting here. We need to be very, very vigilant. So the last part of today's discussion, which I would like to devote, is that we need to be extremely careful in dealing with businesses. The businesses themselves need to be very careful in dealing with suppliers. System in place. You just can't deal with strangers anymore. Of course, in your retail kind of a business, yes, you can. You can have buyers who you do not have KYC for. But having robust supplier KYCs, that has become extremely important. You must have those minimum documents relating to these suppliers. Whomsoever you are making substantial payments, you may have those 80-20 rule. ABC analysis works everywhere. The most important suppliers would be almost 20% of your total list, supplying 80% of the materials. Please have proper KYCs. You must know them. Business should not be done with shady characters. Business should not be done with people you think may not be complying with the laws. Please remember that the modern laws of democratic countries are fastening too many liabilities on moral grounds. These are not laws where strict letter of law is operating as it is. I must tell you that the entire criminal justice system, at least at the arrest and the bail stage, works only on perception. It works only on that what is things looking like. Are they conceivable? Are they normal? Is that the way things are normally carried out, or there is something which is fishy? Be extremely careful in dealing with your vendors. It has become the order of the day. This is for the companies. And while professionals make these systems, it is up to us that we tell them that, look, it is important nowadays to deal with reputed suppliers. It is important to deal with people who are who do not have any doubts in their antecedents, etc. These things are extremely important. And wherever there are problems where we think that it is absolutely essential to deal with some type of suppliers, then some creative solutions definitely need to be put in place. It may be by way of representing beforehand that, look, these are the problems that we are facing. Please guide us what is to be done. So when you put things across to the government on your part from a practical perspective, that helps you reduce the rigors of consequences that may arise, because you have apprised the facts to the authorities beforehand. That can be one of the solutions. Definitely more creative solutions are required from professionals, as also more solutions are required from the government to put in place a better system that people are not harassed, and at the same time people don't misuse the system. Balance has to be better. It is at the moment much more tilted towards authorities. And now regarding professionals nowadays cannot, we are all dealing with fire. Every time we are advising, every time we are implementing, and much more important, every time we are signing and filing any document on behalf of the department, be extremely careful. The factual statements of a client should never be signed by professionals. It must always be by the person who is dealing in the matter. I have in good old days seen the consultants signing the replies stating facts of the case. Never do that. If at all you are required to sign it saying it is on the basis of information provided to you, and it must definitely be attested by the client himself. Never do it. Whenever there is anything that is fishy, I am telling you, it's IT age. Everything is being monitored. And it's an age of perception. एक छोटी सी चीज आपके खिलाफ कुछ मिली, the easiest target is the professional. Be it any authority. And GST authorities are no different. GST authorities have completely started disregarding the professionals when they are seeking information. They want information only from the client, and the role of the consultants have been greatly reduced in that sense. And please note that the Supreme Court has also stated that while recording the statements, the consultants are not allowed to accompany the client. It is the client's statement. So it has become extremely important to know who your clients are. It has become extremely important to know the underlying facts and the intent and the manner of doing the business. We need to be extremely careful while registering premises from our offices, we must avoid it. We must not allow clients to have, we should not become in any case a party of those cases where client gets multiple registrations from one premise, unless we ourselves scrutinize that, yes, this is the fact of the matter. So we have to be extremely careful. We have to be extremely careful in maintaining our proper documents, getting proper declarations from the client, etc. And at the same time, the companies themselves have to be more careful in filing any papers, in furnishing any information, in filing the returns, in taking the credit, in making purchases, etc., etc. It is, and let me end my deliberation by saying that the information, the sheer quantum of information which the department has. One of my senior friend, he usually says this. He says, Puneet, if the department wants, in some time they will be giving you your trial balance. So please don't think that what you are doing in your office may go unnoticed. It is being noticed. The department has the data. You have to, on that basis, you have to be that vigilant while doing anything. So I think this is all that I have for today.
Have any questions, चिंपू जी? Is there any question in chat box?
नहीं, अभी तक कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है.
So should we conclude this session? पवन जी, आप कुछ बोलेंगे?
ठीक है, इसमें
आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही भैया. पवन भैया, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही.
मैं यही कह रहा हूँ.
आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
अब नहीं आई.
पवन भैया, आवाज नहीं आ रही है. पवन जी, आवाज नहीं आ रही है. पवन भैया नॉट ऑडिबल.
ठीक है, फिर आवाज
अब आ रही है.
कोई प्रॉब्लम है?
अब आ रही है, अब आ रही है.
अब आई?
हाँ हाँ.
हाँ, तो मैं यही कह रहा हूँ कि जिस तरह से मान लीजिए पीडीएस के संदर्भ में जो हम लोग बात कर रहे थे, तो इसी तरह से कोई मैकेनिज्म क्या हम लोग भी कुछ सोच करके सजेस्ट कर सकते हैं, ताकि जो है जो जेन्युइन डीलर्स हैं वो कम से कम जो है इस मुश्किलों में नहीं फंसे. तो अगर हम लोग को सोच कर सजेस्ट कर सकते हैं तो ये भी मतलब हम लोग को सोचना चाहिए. बस यही मैं कहता हूँ.
हेलो.
Yes, Pawan ji has concluded his version, though it was not clearly audible. So friends, since there is no questions to be asked from our learned speaker, we are proceeding towards concluding the session. I, Hariram Agrawal, on my own behalf and on behalf of Vitt Salakar CA Study Circle, offer a hearty vote of thanks and many congratulations to CA Dr. Puneet Agrawal for giving a nice deliberation on this very apt matter and the logic behind the two parts of this session, that how the government will pay without getting it, or why the recipient should be deprived of getting the benefit. So a balance has to be made in between the two. So a proper mechanism has to be clearly developed so that the person who is entitled to get is getting the same, and the government should also give it after realizing it. So proper identification of the receipt of the amount of tax GST should be properly developed in such a way that it is automatically reflecting and assisting the exchequer to assure that this much amount which has been claimed has been properly realized, and how much has not been realized, and what action is required to be taken against the defaulting payer. So with these words, I once again thank our learned speaker, CA Puneet Agrawal ji. I also thank CA Ranjit Agrawal for his special address. Thanks to our convener, deputy convener, executive committee members, past convener, and all other attendees of today's program who have made this program a grand success. And we will hope Puneet sir to be made available to us in our forthcoming programs as and when our committee is deciding to again call you. So many thanks to Puneet sir and all the participants. And I recognize the presence of C. Devan Patro, Secretary of EIRC of ICI, Executive Committee Member C. Ramesh Kumar Kedia, who is also present over there. So thank you with these words, and I will request Chimpuji to please conclude the session, close the session.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.